Easter eggs are dying, and there is a great chance we will see less and less in Call of Duty Zombies, and there's even a small chance that our beloved Easter eggs will go entirely extinct, and here's why. Before we look at the recent situation regarding the decline of Easter eggs in zombies, we must first understand the importance they hold in the game mode. Call of Duty Zombies is one of the most unique video game franchises of all time, which is largely because of all the different ways to play. You can hop online with friends just to have a chill experience taking out zombies. You can challenge yourself to extremely high rounds, testing your patience and skill, or my personal favorite, you can aim to accomplish difficult Easter eggs. While each of these communities play Call of Duty Zombies, the way they enjoy the mode is vastly different from one another. Typically, the Ride or Die Zombies fans care deeply about Easter eggs and high rounding, while less involved fans play for an hour or two to have some relaxed fun. In fact, these casual players might even despise completing hardcore aspects of zombies such as Easter eggs, which is actually much more common than you may think. On January 15th, Call of Duty released a blog post celebrating the Zombies game mode for 115 Day, which, if you don't know, refers to the fictional element that created zombies, wonder weapons, and basically drove the entire Zombies storyline up until Black Ops 4. In this blog post, not only was the next Zombies map, The Tomb, announced for January 28th, but Activision gave us an extremely interesting insight into the numbers of Call of Duty Zombies. They began the blog post by highlighting the fact that a total of 480 million hours have been spent on BO6 Zombies so far. But then, the mood of the post quickly shifted from there. It states, "Yet despite that frankly staggering statistic, our total main quest completion rate across both Zombies launch maps hadn't cracked 4% before the release of Directed Mode." Before we continue reading, we have to highlight this point. Directed Mode released on November 14th, about 3 weeks after Black Ops 6 came out. So, in 3 weeks, only 4% of players had completed either the Liberty Falls or Terminus Easter egg. Now, this statistic isn't completely straightforward. For example, it does not specify whether 4% of Black Ops 6 players or 4% of Black Ops 6 Zombies players have completed an Easter egg. This small distinction is huge, as many Call of Duty players stick to multiplayer or Warzone, choosing to either not play Zombies or maybe they tried it once or twice. Personally, I believe this statistic only has to do with players that have at least played one game of Zombies. I say this because if Treyarch chose to include everyone who owns Black Ops 6, including those who don't play Zombies, the Easter egg completion percentage would likely be as low as 1 or 2%. So, moving forward, I'm going to assume that this is just for players who have played Zombies at least once. Overall, when I read this post initially, I was actually shocked. I'm aware that the Easter egg community is sort of a loud minority when it comes to zombies, but I didn't realize just how unpopular Easter eggs were. In fact, this made me curious about how popular Easter eggs used to be. So naturally, I looked at the numbers for the most beloved zombies game, Black Ops 3. On Steam, it tells you the percentage of players who have unlocked certain achievements. Completing the Dryzendrach Easter egg has only been done by 10% of BO3 players on Steam. And keep in mind, Dryzendrach is arguably the most loved zombies map ever. And this number would likely be much higher if the map wasn't behind a paid DLC, which really makes me question the Easter egg completion rates on less popular maps. Anyways, the most important information from the blog post is not done there. In fact, there is a whole other detail we have yet to look at. Directed Mode is a variation of classic round-based zombies. Instead of throwing the player into the fire, Directed Mode holds your hand. In fact, it guides you through each and every step of the Easter egg, while also having a round cap so it doesn't become too too challenging. At first, I was unsure about directed mode, as it was pretty boring and added almost nothing to my experience as a zombies player. I later realized that directed mode didn't come out simply because Treyarch wanted to help out newer players. In reality, Treyarch had no choice but to make this game mode, and the recent blog post explains exactly why. Our goal from the start for directed mode was simple: grow the zombies community by guiding new players through the main quests with some guardrails in place, so they can experience the storyline and hopefully become lifelong zombies fans. They continue on saying, "Thankfully, the numbers are promising. Since directed mode went live, our average main quest completion rate has more than doubled, going from 3.38% on November 14th to 8.23% today." As you have just heard, only 8% of zombie players have completed a main quest Easter egg. And while the post does praise directed mode, this statistic isn't actually about how more players have completed an Easter egg because of directed mode. It's really about how more players have completed an Easter egg since November 14th. Either way, I'm sure directed mode played a big part in this increase, but Treyarch paints it in a way that solely praises the new directed mode, even though an extra 2 months to play are likely an even bigger factor. The blog post also made me question how many people beat the Citadel de Mort Easter egg. If Liberty Falls and Terminus only managed to get 3% of zombies players to complete at least one of their Easter eggs, I can only imagine that Citadel de Mort has even lower numbers, mostly because Liberty Falls and Terminus came out on launch day, and since launch, player counts have drastically fallen. Overall, I wanted to highlight these statistics because I think they could truly have some major consequences on zombies moving forward. And knowing just how money hungry Activision is, I could see a reality where we don't get main quests anymore. If only 8% of players care about it, is it really worth investing millions of dollars into Easter eggs? Before we answer that question, we have to discuss exactly why these Easter egg completion numbers are so low, which can be summed up by two main factors. The first one being the Warzone-ification of zombies. Ever since the massive success of Warzone in 2020, Call of Duty has completely changed how they have handled zombies. Before Warzone, zombies felt entirely different from other Call of Duty modes. The artwork, atmosphere, characters, HUD, story, and gameplay were all vastly different between zombies and multiplayer. But since Warzone, these distinct lines between what was multiplayer and what was zombies were blurred, creating a lot of gray area. The art style was mostly the same, the atmosphere was doled out, characters were eliminated and replaced with operators, the HUD was the same as Warzone, the story was less of a focus, but the gameplay actually did hold most traits of earlier zombie modes. Also, the way maps were released changed. Instead of paying for DLC maps, they were given out for free, which is probably the only downright good change. But in reality, this change is partially responsible for why Easter eggs are becoming less and less popular. In games like Black Ops 3, many zombies fans bought the season pass, essentially paying $50 for 5 zombie maps, 16 multiplayer maps, and some extra content. This is relevant because if people are paying their hard-earned money for only 5 maps, you bet that many of them will be as inclined as possible to get their money's worth. So when they hear Zetsubo no Shima is coming out, they are very likely to say, hey, I paid for this and I'm gonna play this new map a lot to get my money's worth, which likely encouraged many to complete Easter eggs. Nowadays, unless you're super invested in the storyline or just love Easter eggs, you're not that incentivized to complete them. You really don't have any stake in the game. On top of this, the Warzone-ification of zombies has greatly catered to casual players. In Black Ops 6, systems such as armor plates, buy stations, weapon rarities, and more have come directly from Warzone, and I'm willing to bet they did this in order to bring Warzone fans into zombies, which has directly pushed out many hardcore zombies fans and replaced them with newer casual fans. Due to this, there might be more people playing zombies now than ever, but Easter eggs and the more complex parts of the mode are getting less and less popular. The second reason as to why Easter egg completion rates are so low in Zombies is because they've always been low. Before we get into it, I want to ask you to consider subscribing to my channel, as your support is the reason I fund these videos, and in return I'll give you 2 to 3 amazing Zombies videos every month. So thank you. In reality, Easter egg numbers have always been low. Earlier in the video, I mentioned that only 10% of Black Ops 3 owners on PC have completed the Der Eisendrache Easter egg, so it's entirely fair to say that these Black Ops 6 statistics are not that bad. But still, only 8% of BO6 zombie players have completed at least one Easter egg. And based off of this video clip from Kevin Drew, the director of Zombies, I'm willing to bet that most of the 8% who have completed an Easter egg have only done Liberty Falls.
I wanted to ask, what has it been looking like having this incredible response to the launch of Zombies so far? I think especially with both of the maps, but I've seen a lot of love for Liberty Falls, which has been awesome.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see. We're actually, like, data-wise, it's like the hours spent in Zombies is actually like 2 to 1 Liberty Falls and Terminus.
Wow.
So, you know, people enjoy the small day map where they can just kind of hang out and kite zombies for a while.
Overall, the number of people actively completing Easter eggs is dropping, and players are leaning towards simpler, less complicated maps. Comparing an Easter egg like Terminus to Origins or Shadows of Evil, these current maps offer shorter and less complicated experiences, yet still less people are completing them. Now that you're aware of the current Easter egg situation, what will the long-term consequences be? In reality, there are 4 directions that Treyarch can take to solve this issue, and given that such a small percentage of players actually complete Easter eggs, I'm very confident that Treyarch will go in at least one of these directions. For this segment, I'm going to go in order from the most realistic approach that Treyarch could take to a more extreme one at the end. Most realistically, Call of Duty will expand on the directed mode. This could mean that the game mode gets more marketing, it could potentially release the same day as the maps instead of 3 weeks later, or maybe they encourage people to play directed mode by offering larger XP boosts while playing. Either way, directed mode will continue through Black Ops 6, and I'm confident we will see it in the next Zombies title as well. Secondly, Treyarch can offer larger incentives for Easter egg completion. Right now in Black Ops 6, completing Terminus and Citadel de Mor gives the player skins for Maya and Weaver, and Liberty Falls gives you a ray gun skin. Each of the maps also provides specific calling cards and XP upon completion. Despite this being a very good idea, I think Treyarch could take it a step further. Maybe offering higher quality skins could encourage more players to attain them, as the ones we have now are decent, but nothing I would go out of my way to use. Maybe on a future map, if they offered $5 in COD points and a great skin or 2, casual fans would be much more encouraged to complete these eggs. The next likely scenario to come out of these low numbers is an overall drop in quality of Easter eggs. Given the fact that Liberty Falls has been played by far the most out of any BO6 map, Activision could easily tell Treyarch to dumb down Zombies even more. Why invest significant time and money into Easter eggs when the average fan has never done one before? I personally would not be surprised if we start seeing more simple main quests like Liberty Falls and less dense ones like Terminus, as financially it doesn't make sense to continue in the direction they are now. Finally, the least likely of these outcomes is the elimination of Easter eggs. You might think that Call of Duty would never stop making Easter eggs in Zombies, and while I do agree, I think we all have to acknowledge that there's still a small chance this could happen. Recently, it was leaked that Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War took $700 million to make, and with each Call of Duty costing more and more, I'd assume Black Ops 6 would be closer to the 800 or 900 mark. And from Activision's perspective, would it really be worth spending tens of millions extra on Zombies Easter eggs if only 5% of your fanbase cares? Probably not. If this decision did become a reality, most die-hard Zombies fans would be out of the picture, but thankfully, Black Ops 6 Zombies has had a fairly successful run so far. In fact, the launch went surprisingly well. Unfortunately, the last month or so has been a step in the wrong direction, and if you're curious about why, go watch my last video. Dear Activision, please save BO6 Zombies. And if you're still here, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.